in a folklore class, and we were doing a project on chefs and restaurants and kind of the way that you like interact with other people, or like how you got interested in it, just like kind of the culture of restaurants or like cooking and things like that, just as a background. And then we have this release agreement. It's only for, we're only using this project in class, but we have to make a website. So we need one of these to sign it. You can do that later.
Okay.
Just so
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started then. So our first question is, when did you first become interested in cooking, and like why did you start to get cooking?
I'm actually, the first time I was in the kitchen, really loved it. I was 12 years old, and my mom took me to work with her at a place called Mary's Cape Cod Inn in California, which Cape Cod, California, the same. But and I fell in love with it then. I was going to be an architect. I was in college to become an architect, but I was working my way through college cooking, and at a point early on in architecture, I realized that I want to cook. My parents weren't really happy, but that started it.
Did you go to culinary school?
No, just straight in the kitchens. Mostly in the wine country in California. It's probably where I spent 20 years of my 32 years cooking. Then I went off to Hawaii for 7 years and did research and development work for a candy company. They wanted to develop candies that had tropical fruits in them, and those things don't usually work well together. If you ever seen the movie like Water for Chocolate, moisture and chocolate do not work together, so we came up with some chemical variations to the fruits to be able to get them to work with the chocolate without making the chocolate turn to stone. So,
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
So do you prefer doing stuff like that, or like actually cooking in the kitchen?
It's actually the first time I ever worked with confection. It was just, I moved to Hawaii with my daughter because I ended up getting sudden custody of her, and I didn't want to raise her in California with the gang violence and the problems there, so I figured Hawaii would be a safe bet for a while.
Yeah.
So I spent the next 7 years getting her through school there, and that's the job I fell into. It was actually pretty cool.
Where in Hawaii did you
It was
say?
in the Big Island,
Okay.
on the west side in Hilo,
Okay.
which complicated chocolate making just a little bit more.
Is your daughter into cooking too, or did
No,
she take on that trade?
she's my oldest daughter is heavily into cooking, but she's actually a park ranger. But
Okay.
she loves to cook. But the youngest daughter, she's in marketing and research.
What made you decide to come to Wisconsin?
That's a good one. I met this lady in Hawaii that was doing a post-master's geophysics program, and she's from France. And when she was looking at programs for geophysics, there was 2 programs in the United States that were the 2 best in the world. One's in Miami, and one's here at UW. UW, for some reason, just has a phenomenal geophysics program, and they actually recruited her to do her PhD here. And so when she told me she was coming to Wisconsin, I'm like, you're in Hawaii, right? Miami'd be a better fit. So, but yeah, no, she came here a little over a year ago, and I packed up and moved here.
What's your favorite kind of cuisine to cook?
I'm kind of into fusion, mostly California fusion, just because I'm from the wine country, and it's a heavy farm to table movement there, which actually is really similar to Madison. The only difference is really the weather and the growing seasons. A lot shorter here than in California, and we're the breadbasket of the world because we have more farms per capita than anywhere else in the world, even though we have a huge population. It's a really big state, and there's the product that there is to work with in California it's intense, and it's coupled with the wine industry. It's kind of hard to beat for foodies.
Yeah. So do you use is there like a big difference in like the ingredients you use when you're cooking from here? And
It kind of depends, because I like to take regional. So here it's just basically a little less variety of vegetables, but there's a whole lot more other artisan products. Your cheeses. In California we have a lot of cheese, but it's a heavy goat cheese. I mean, we produce more goat cheese than anywhere else in the United States. Out of California, Laura Chanel was right around the corner from where I lived. Cowboy Creamery. It's cheese centric because the climate's really good for goats. So the goat cheese production is pretty huge there, which kind of changes the cuisine. You end up using a lot more bitter greens and a lot more sweet vinaigrettes to kind of balance. And so it's basically whatever product is here, so that we can bring product from the close area to make it not only support the local purveyors, but keep the food as fresh as possible.
So you guys get a lot of your product from local.
Yeah, as much as we can, weather permitted. But obviously during the winter, all pretty much goes away with the exception of the cheeses and the proteins. But everything else we pull from here in the summertime. By
Did
myself
your
wandering.
house like conceptualize the menu that you have here?
The menu was mostly mine. Of course, there's 4 or 5 items that the owners wanted on that we put on there. But yeah, the menu here I designed mostly. I also run the tap house kitchen, which that menu is already in place. We added probably 5 or 6 dishes that are from my thing, but mostly that was already conceptualized.
Do you have a favorite dish you like to make that you had to put on the menu here, or like just what you want? Or you can name a
I've
few.
stole a couple dishes from places that I ran before. The rosemary chicken dish here is one that I did really successfully in California. And the flat iron steak, although it's a different cut of meat, it's the same breadcrumb, blue cheese, rosemary topping that I did there. Other than that, I'm pretty much trying to bastardize my food as much as I can to the area here.
Yeah.
Did you have a certain theme you're going for with the menu, or a certain goal you
Well,
have?
what they wanted me to get to was Northwoods theme. They're obviously trying to
Yeah.
create the Northwoods look here, and they wanted to take a predominantly Door County and northern